ええ、あれは忘れもしない。
Thunberg Lily
1987年4月のことです。私は友人からある奇妙な依頼を受けました。とある大富豪の遺品である蔵書が大量に競売にかけられていて、その一部に民族学的にも考古学的にも、あるいはオカルト的な意味でも極めて価値の高いものが含まれていると思われる。その価値を内密に見てほしいというのです。
87年、ロッケン島での事件の半年後。
さようです。
Hello
それらの蔵書はロッケン島での難を逃れたものと説明されていました。それを島の所有者である後宮エバ氏が競売に出したというのです。
They appear to be at a high-class restaurant. Ange and a middle-aged man were sitting across from one another in a pair of secluded and quiet seats. A Muska could be seen by the restaurant's entrance. He was probably keeping a lookout for any pursuers from the Sumadera family. The scarly-seeming man across from Ange spoke politely, but with enthusiasm. He hadn't so much as touched the food in front of him, which communicated effectively the passion with which he was speaking. He was a professor at a certain university, known in particular as an authority on Western folklore. However, among his life works, that was only the one with the most acceptable public face. His true life work was the study of Western occultism, Western magic, alchemy, and all else falling under the umbrella of the occult, as well as demonology. In short, he was just added to the character sheet. In short, he was one of the people best positioned to understand the details of Kinzo's research. Who is this man? Who are you? Professor Ootsuki. A professor at a certain college, well known as an authority on the study of Western folklore, also famous as a hobbyist researcher of the Rokkenjima witch legend, and as one of the witch hunters. The witch hunt is primarily focused on the straining of occult superstitions to explain the truth of the Rokkenjima crime, rather than doing so scientifically, and its diligence and enthusiasts of the mystical primarily view it as a type of mental game. Professor Ootsuki. Is he supposed to represent a reader of this game? Or is he supposed to represent, honestly, I don't know what this character is supposed to represent, but he's very interesting. He's very interesting. Interesting. Professor Ootsuki.
まず蔵書を鑑定して分かったことは、後宮エバ氏には民族学的な教養は全くなく、そしてその蔵書の本来の持ち主である後宮金蔵氏は、日本で五子に入る悪魔学の権威であったことは間違いないということです。
April 1987. A major city antique shop came into possession of a large quantity of ancient texts thought to have a high historical value. The texts had been entrusted to them by Yoshimiya Eva, who had requested for them to be put up for auction on her behalf. At the time, everyone thought that Eva had succeeded the Yoshimiya family and obtained all the wealth for herself as the only survivor. However, at that point, barely half a year had passed since the accident, which was not enough for the rest of the family to be legally declared dead in absentia, even given the extraordinary circumstances. Because of that, Ava was thought to have been in a very tight spot financially, unable even to collect from her family's life insurance. It seems that she tried to sell everything of value, and even the books kept in the Kuadorian, her location when she escaped harm, became a target of this. So those books were from the Kuadorian. Alright. I was thinking where those books came from. I was wondering about that. And when the authorities in the field gathered at the request of the antique shop to appraise these documents, which were later called the Ushiramiya Library, they were given the shock of their lives.
少なくとも神秘学の見地から言えば、その発見が世界に与えた衝撃は司会文書発見にも匹敵するものでした。
What are the Dead Sea Scrolls? Hold on, I need to look that up. The Dead Sea Scrolls, also the Qumran Cave Scrolls, are ancient Jewish religious manuscripts that were found in the Qumran Caves in the Judean Desert, near Ain Feshka on the northern side of the Dead Sea in the West Bank. Scholarly consensus dates these scrolls from the last 3 centuries BCE and the 1st century CE. The texts have great historical, religious, and linguistic significance because they include the oldest known surviving manuscripts of works later included in the Hebrew Bible canon, along with deuterocanonical and extra-biblical manuscripts, which preserve evidence of the diversity of religious thought in late Second Temple Judaism. Almost all the Dead Sea Scrolls are held by the State of Israel in the Shrine of the Book on the grounds of the Israel Museum, but ownership of the scrolls is disputed by Jordan and Palestine. Alright, I'll just read the whole beginning part of the article because I just want to get a basic idea on what Dead Sea Scrolls are. Though I'm going to keep this tab open for later because I might read a little bit more about this after recording this video. But if you're interested in reading more about this, even after I'm done reading this, I will put the link down in the description below. Many thousands of written fragments have been discovered in the Dead Sea area. They represent the remnants of larger manuscripts damaged by natural causes or through human interference, with the vast majority holding only small scraps of text. However, a small number of well-preserved, almost intact manuscripts have survived, fewer than a dozen among those from the Qumran Caves. Researchers have assembled a collection of 981 different manuscripts, discovered in 1946-7 and in 1956 from 11 caves. The 11 Qumran Caves lie in the immediate vicinity of the Hellenistic period Jewish settlement at Sherbet Qumran and eastern Judean Desert in the West Bank. The caves are located about 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers west of the northwest shore of the Dead Sea, whence they derive their name. Scholarly consensus dates the Qumran Cave Scrolls from the last 3 centuries BCE and the 1st century CE. Bronze coins found at the same sites form a series beginning with John Hyrcanus in office 135 to 104 BCE, and continuing until the period of the First Jewish-Roman War, 66 to 73 CE, supporting the radiocarbon and the paleographic datings of the scrolls. In the larger sense, the Dead Sea Scrolls include manuscripts from additional Judean desert sites, dated as early as the 8th century BCE and as late as the 11th century CE. Biblical texts older than the Dead Sea Scrolls have been discovered only in 2 silver scroll-shaped amulets containing portions of the priestly blessing from the Book of Numbers, evacuated in Jerusalem at Kityef Hinnom and dated c. 600 BCE. Some scholars also include the controversial Sapir scroll. The third oldest surviving known piece of the Torah, the Ein Gedi scroll, consists of a portion of the Leviticus found in the Ein Gedi synagogue, burnt in the 6th century CE and analyzed in 2015. Research has dated it paleographically to the 1st or 2nd century CE, and using the C4 method, Do they use radiocarbon dating? Oh, okay. To sometime between the 2nd and 4th century CE. I didn't know what the C14, not C4. Oops. I misread that. Most of the texts use Hebrew, with some written in Aramaic, for example, the Son of God text, in different regional dialects, including Nabatean, and a few in Greek. Discoveries from the Judean desert add Latin from Masada and Arabic from Sherbet al-Mird texts. Most of the texts are written on parchment, some on papyrus and one on copper. Archaeologists have long associated the scrolls with the ancient Jewish sect called the Essenes, although some recent interpretations have changed this connection and argue that priests in Jerusalem, or Zadokites, or other unknown Jewish groups wrote the scrolls. Owing to the poor condition of some of the scrolls, scholars have not identified all their texts. The identified texts fall into 3 general groups. 1. About 40% are copies of texts from the Hebrew scriptures. 2. Approximately another 30% are texts from the Second Temple period, which ultimately were not canonicized in the Hebrew Bible, like the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Tobit, the Wisdom of Sirach, Psalms 152, 155, etc. 3. The remainder, roughly 30%, are sectarian manuscripts of previously unknown documents that shed light on the rules and beliefs of a particular group, sects, or groups within Haider Judaism, like the Community Roll, the War Scroll, the Pesher on Habakkuk, and the Rule of the Blessing. I apologize if I mispronounced anything when I was reading the beginning of this page. I apologize if I mispronounced anything, and you can correct my pronunciation in the comments down below. But yes, that's the basics on the Dead Sea Scrolls. And now, let's get back to Professor Ootsuki.
後宮蔵書にはなんと1000年以上にもわたる間その存在だけが知られているにもかかわらず発見されていなかった数々の極めて重要な文献さえ含まれていたからです。
The so-called romantic side of the cult, epitomized, for example, by alchemy, never ceases to stir an intense fascination in dilettantes. Even now, it is whispered that in various places around the world, a great number of magic books of historical value might be in the secret possession of very wealthy lovers of the occult, unannounced to the public. The prime candidates for this are said to be items such as Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks, which are particularly popular among dilettantes. It is said that approximately 5,000 pages of the notebooks currently exist, and over 10,000 have been lost. But some researchers believe that a large part of this lost portion may be monopolized by certain dilettantes and millionaires. It is said that because of this, even now, dilettantes who can't help but seek these spare no expense to search around for quietly hoarded away and unannounced notebooks. There is probably no doubting that Ushimiya Kinzo was himself one of those dilettantes. It is unknown what Kinzo went through to obtain these, but undoubtedly he must have spent his vast wealth like water to pay them off other rich people with the same hobby as him. The discovery of that huge number of books at the end of the 20th century, books so valuable that dilettantes were filled with the desire to hoard them away, and their subsequent release to the public gave the entire world a massive shock.
この一件により、六軒島の名は全世界に知れ渡ることになります。そして同時に、六軒島の事故によって未発見のさらに価値ある蔵書が大量に失われた可能性が高いことも全世界に衝撃を与えました。
Probably all the books that could actually, help someone actually perform real life alchemy were lost after the accident.
これにより六軒島と後宮蔵書の名は我々にとって生涯忘れないものとなったのです。
Our memories. that R probably meant the occult neck of the woods with the same hobby as Kenzo. This incident caused the name of Rokkenjima to develop an important meaning within the world of the occult. Certainly, there had been a lot of reporting about the accident on Rokkenjima, but it hadn't been on an international level. However, this incident circled the globe, taking the image of Rokkenjima as a small island in the Izu archipelago and painting it over as a demonic island with a mixture of riddles, suspicion, mystery, and the occult. In other words, until Kinto's library was leaked to the public by Ava, Rokkenjima had been nothing more than a nameless island that no one thought twice about. And it definitely had to been a witch's island. However, when knowledge of the Ushiyamiya library spread across the world, Rokkenjima's image immediately took on an occult twist.
そして、そこへ起こるのが例のメッセージボトル事件です。
Oh?
これがあの島を魔女の島に変えた。伊豆諸島の無名の小島がオカルトの島へ、そして謎の魔女ベアトリーチェの島へと変遷していったのです。
This is a weird question, but I need to look this up real quick. Where is the Izu archipelago? Oh! Alright, can I get a bigger image of a map real quick just to see this? Oh! Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Alright. Yeah, there's a lot of images right here of the Izu archipelago, and wow. Wow, I definitely want to visit here someday. Holy crap! Oh, that's a nice view. Oh, that's a real nice view. Oh, man. I definitely want to visit the Izu archipelago one day. Oh, man, when I go to Japan, I wanted to travel north of Japan, just see, some of the northern villages, but I might go down to the Izu archipelago now, because, God, I just want to see the ocean views from the mountains. I'm not making travel plans right now. I need to get back to playing Umineko. I'm sorry. I should not be making travel plans in a YouTube video. But the thoughts on my mind now.
後ろ宮蔵書とメッセージボトル。このどちらが欠けても、六軒島魔女伝説は成り立たなかったと言えます。
メッセージボトル。
はい。空の瓶に手紙を封印し海に投じるという不特定対象への通信方法です。無人島から SOS を発信するというのが有名ですが、海外の有名推理小説の影響で
I don't know which novel... Man, I don't know which novel that originates from, but I know it came from a novel, the SOS bottle. But I don't remember what its name was. But I know someone in the comments will tell me. Someone in the comments will tell me. But I know that it came from a book. Like, well, Ootsuki is saying.
自らの死後に真実を告白するという時間差的な遺書としても知られるようになりました。六軒島メッセージボトル事件はまさにこの後者だったのです。
近くの島の漁師が拾っていたというやつですね。
さようです。式根島の若い漁師が手紙入りのワインボトルを拾っていたことが分かったのです。この若い漁師は興味本位からそれをたまたま保管していました。それが後ろ宮蔵書で六軒島が世界的注目を浴びたため公表したというのです。
Okay, now that just questions the letter's, authenticity that he waited to announce that he found it until after Rokkenjima became international news. That's kind of suspicious.
その漁師による捏造の可能性は？
Yeah, like Ange saying.
もちろん、その可能性も否定できませんでした。ワインボトル内のノート片には、後宮家のとある人物の署名がされていました。 後宮マリアという少女です。しかし彼女の遺品の肉質から別人の筆跡であることが確認されました。
Oh.
別人の筆跡？
Okay, that's interesting.
さようです。少なくとも少女より達筆で年齢のある人物によって書かれたことは疑いようがないでしょう。彼女の名を語った何者かが執筆した可能性が極めて高かったのです。よってこの時点ではノート編の内容の信憑性は薄いと考えられました。
But if you were trying to make a hoax, why would you use Maria's name? That is a good question. If you're trying to make a hoax letter, why not try one of the adults' names? But yeah, like that would make more sense. If you're trying to make a fake letter, why not use one of the adults' names rather than the youngest person who was a victim of the accident? Interesting. Huh. However, later on, a sensation was created when it came to light that on the day of the accident, a similar message bottle had been recovered from the surrounding ocean by the police in their search for evidence.
警察は現場の状況とボトルの封印状況から捏造の可能性は低く、事故直前の数日以内に投棄したものと判断したようです。また双方の筆跡は一致しました。これにより漁師の発見したノート編の信憑性が増すこととなりました。メッセージボトルの内容については週刊誌などが繰り返し報道しているようですが、説明がいりますかな？
Yes.
いいえ。
Angie, no!
一応知っていますので。
Okay. Angie's gonna explain to us. Several sheets of notebook paper had been stuffed into each of the two wine bottles. They were extensive accounts, written in a diary-like fashion by some unknown person calling themselves Ushirmiya Maria, of the events of the day of the accident and the day before. And it was these that prompted the beginning of the Witch Legend serial murder case. And the mystery of the Golden Witch, Beatrice.
この奇妙な日記風式には、台風で島に釘付けにされた後宮家の親族たちが、魔女復活の儀式に巻き込まれ、次々に不可解な方法で殺されていく様子が記されていました。そして最後に黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェがよみがえり、すべてを黄金鏡に飲み込む。まるでそれこそが当日の全容であるかのように記されていました。また当時の島の状況についても非常に詳しく描写されており、後宮家に勤務したことがある元の使用人たちは間違いなく内部に詳しい人間が書いたに違いないと証言しました。
そのおかしな幻想小説と後宮蔵書以降のオカルトブーム。
Wait, are we going to be able to read these other notebook pages? Because I know at the end of episode 1 we saw the message from the bottle from Maria regarding the "Please find out the truth, that is my only wish" from Maria, but the other one that Ootsuki just mentioned, have we seen that one or not? I'm not for sure, but I do want to read these letters again if they come up.
そして結局は真相は闇の中という3つが合わさり、六軒島の魔女伝説を生み出したと。
さようです。すでに10年以上が経過した事件ですが、未だに世界のオカルトマニアの関心を集めています。いや、むしろ時間を得てますますに神格化されたと言っていい。上陸禁止になっている六軒島に密かに上陸しようというマニアも未だに多いとか。 未だ未発見のメッセージボトルがあるのではないか。そしてあの日、あの島で本当は何があったのか、未だに議論はつきませんとも。
I bet you have tried sneaking onto the island before. Without a doubt, I bet you probably tried sneaking on before. As though he had finally remembered that he had been going on and on for some time, the man took a sip of water. His pottage was now cold, but it seemed that the man's hunger had already been blown away.
確か、漁師のノート編と警察のノート編で内容が全く違うと聞きましたが。
さようです。このせいでロッケン島ミステリーはさらに面白みが増したのです。2つのボトルの中身はどちらも事故前日から当日までを記した日記風の式です。しかしその内容は共に前日から当日を記した内容であり、にもかかわらず内容は全く異なったのです。
Interesting. Very interesting.
まるでどちらかが真実でどちらかが虚偽のように、あるいは両方とも虚偽なのかもしれない。
I was about to say that.
しかし始まりと終わりだけは一致するのです。始まりは親族たち18人は台風で島に閉じ込められた。そして終わりは全員が死に黄金の魔女がよみがえり、すべては黄金鏡に飲み込まれる。
The contents of both message bottles describe the events of the 2 days of the accident, but the details were completely different. Both diaries outline a serial murder following the epitaph of the witch, but the order of the sacrifices, the manners of their deaths, and even the tale of the 2 days are different. However, both depict the same ultimate conclusion. Everyone dies and the witch revives.
あの島で何があったのか。唯一の生存者である後宮エバ氏が沈黙していた以上、あの2日間の出来事は全てが闇の中です。この2つの日記はその闇を埋める仮説をこともあろうか2つも提示してみせたのです。どちらの日記でも2日間を説明できる。しかしどちらが正しいのか、あるいは正しいことが含まれているのかさえわからないのです。
You know, every time I see Schroeder cats pop up, every time I see Schroeder's cat pops up, I have the same exact feeling every time I get rickrolled. Like, Schroeder's cat is basically the same thing as a rickroll. Schroeder's cat box. If it isn't denied, even fiction can be truth. Through the media, these notebook pages had of course been shown to Ava as well. But in the end, she never broke her silence.
誰が何のためにメッセージボトルを？
事件10周年特集を組んだ雑誌が以前大々的に取り上げたでしょう。あの仮説が今日では最も支持を集めているようです。しかし面白みには欠ける。あの島であの日何が起こったのか、それを考えるのがウィッチハントの醍醐味なのですな。
ウィッチハント？
ああ、ロッケン島ウィッチハントとはこの事件の真相をオカルトの側面から説明しようと試みるマニアの集いのことです。後宮蔵書から謎の2日間、そして 黄金の魔女の伝説など、六軒島に関わる謎は今でもマニアの間で盛んに議論されているのです。
You know, I just have to wonder, in this universe, are there like people who make YouTube videos about, you know, well, okay, this is 1998, so there's no YouTube yet, but okay, in the Umineko universe, like 20 years later, like let's just say about 2018-ish, are there people who do YouTube videos in this universe about the Rokkenjima incident? Oh, oh man, I would love to I mean, it is a horrible accident that led to the deaths of 17 to 18 people, so maybe I shouldn't be, you know, saying this, but I would have loved to see those kind of videos, like analysis videos of what happened, even though if those analysis videos were made, that does imply that there was an accident that happened on a mansion where 17 to 18 people died. But I'll still probably watch them. Yeah, I still would probably watch those videos because that's just interesting. That is really interesting. Though it's kind of morbid. It is kind of morbid, I do admit that. But still, interesting. Very interesting.
10周年の時にはニューヨークで国際コンベンションも開かれました。
What?
私も日本の代表として参加してきましてね。
Wait, there was a convention regarding the Rokkenjima incident? What?
海外の熱心なウィッチハンターと様々な交流をしてきましたよ。
Oh my god, that's interesting. Is there any equivalent to that sort of thing in our world? Interesting.
海外では魔女はとても人気のあるカテゴリーでしてね。
Yeah.
参加者の年齢幅も下は小学生から上は著名な文化人まで実に幅広い。日本でも近年ようやく。
You probably don't need any more explanation, but he is one of the most famous Rokkenjima witch hunters in Japan. After that, he just kept continuing on excitedly all by himself, even though I never asked. As I swirled the thin film on my pottage with my spoon, I shrugged my shoulders and sighed. Maybe it really had been a waste of time to research about the message bottle. No. If there was one thing I gotten out of this, it was knowledge that those pages, supposedly written by Maria One-chan, had actually been written by a different person faking her name. And that person had taken it upon themselves to write an occult story, put it into a bottle as though it was the truth, and throw it into the sea. This raises questions for me. Why did they go to all the trouble of writing so much in order to prepare a suspicious letter like that? With the message bottle, there would be no guarantee that it would ever pass into anyone's hands. If their luck had been bad, it could have sunk in the ocean and never been seen by anyone. And even if someone were to pick it up, they might have thrown it away without thinking twice about it. Why did they entrust their confession of the truth to the sea in such an uncertain method? And why did they write up multiple different tales? If there had been one message bottle, claiming that its story was the truth would be reckless, but not impossible. However, because there were two, that made both of them doubtful. If someone was plotting to make out those two mysterious days to be the work of a witch, that was pretty superfluous. And because there were two, it suggested that an undiscovered third one, or possibly even more, might exist. In other words, the two having differing contents was making it even harder to take either of them at face value. But despite their differences, the contents of the two matched in that both tales told of a witch. Does that mean that this was what the writer wanted to tell us? I can only imagine that this was a crime committed for pleasure, by someone who wanted to create an illusion of a witch. But 17 people, excluding Aunt Ava, lost their lives, and a vast inheritance, and maybe even 10 tons of gold, changed hands behind the scenes. It just doesn't make sense for the confession coming at the end of all of that to be this fantasy about a witch. I don't need to hear the magazine's reasonings to find it extremely doubtful whether the message bottles really are diaries. After all, the amount of writing was massive. It's hard to imagine that someone actually caught up in the middle of a serial murder like that would have been able to calmly write it down. In that case, it's probably more realistic to say that these diaries were written slowly over a long period of time before the day prior to the accident. In which case, would that mean that everything on Rokkenjima was premeditated and prepared for over a long stretch of time? The fact that Aunt Ava left this world without saying anything is detestable. She definitely told me on her deathbed. She definitely said that her reason for not telling me the truth because it was the best way of harassing me. By now I'm painfully aware of it. Of all things Aunt Ava did to harass me, this was probably the last and the greatest. But now that I start to think of it this way, it's pretty doubtful that Aunt Ava is the true culprit. Of course, this isn't because the handwriting in the bottle differs from Aunt Ava's, or anything like that. It's because in both discovered tales, Aunt Ava was included among the victims. What? What? Wait, what? Hold on! What the fuck does that mean? Hold on! Were the previous 2 games the previous bottle messages? Were the previous 2 games described by the bottle messages? The one found by the fisherman was episode 1, and the other one that was found earlier was the one that described game 2, and episode 3 was described through Aunt Ava. This is where this story's going to, right? Wait, okay. With this reasoning, something... Okay. Hold on, what? Interesting, wait. Oh my god. This brings a lot of thoughts to my head. But I'm gonna save those thoughts for later because I need to figure out how the hell am I gonna think... Wow, that actually opens up a lot of interesting things in my head. The bottle letters describe the events of the games. In the 3rd game, might not be described in the bottle, but it's described through Ava and her unwillingness to tell the story. But also the witch stuff might be from Ava's mind as well. Episode 3 could have been told slightly from the psychological viewpoint of Ava. Oh my god! Okay, through that gives a lot of, both questions and slight... It doesn't give answers at all, no, I don't know what I was thinking. I was about to say that it gives slight answers, but no, it doesn't give answers at all. It gives more questions, but interesting concepts to think about. I wasn't thinking that sort of direction, huh? The previous games could have been tales written by the culprit, the true culprit. Oh man. Wow. If the writer of these diaries was the culprit, then maybe Aunt Ava had also been one of the targets to be killed. Aunt Ava had survived because something had gone wrong. Because of my hate for Aunt Ava, I had a belief until now that she had to be the culprit. But the existence of the message bottles was making me suspect that the mastermind was a far more profound and unknown person than her. Hmm. Interesting. I looked at the clock. I'm gonna repeat that. I looked at the clock. I'd asked everything I wanted to. Time to go. As he continued to speak fervently, I volunteered that I wanted to bring this discussion to a close. He seemed to be aware that he had gotten excited and talked too much, so he accepted this without resistance.
今日は本当にありがとうございました。貴重なお話が聞けたと思います。
いえいえ。ウィッチハントの新しい仲間に若いお嬢さんを迎えできて本当に楽しかったです。今日は歌詞を変えてしまったのでお見せできなかった貴重な資料がいくつもあります。次の機会の時にはぜひそれをお見せしましょう。
ありがとう先生。最後に聞いてもいいですか？
はい、何でしょうか。
先生はどうして魔女に、いえ、神秘学や悪魔学に興味を？
それを言われるとお恥ずかしい。不思議な力が使えたなら意地悪なガキ大将にも負けないのに。という子供の頃の妄想がそのままライフワークになってしまっただけです。未知なる力への憧れというプリミティブな願望は今も昔も普遍的ですからな。
先生はなれるものなら魔女になりたいですか？思うがままに魔法を使ってみたいという夢を今も？
もちろんですとも。この年になりそういうものが実在しないと理屈では分かっていても、それでもなお空を飛んでみたい、鉄くずを黄金に変えてみたいという子供のような夢は忘れられずにいます。学生たちにはどうか内密に。
Man, I would love to meet Professor Ootsuki in real life. He sounds like a fun dude to just interact with. I'm just being honest here. Ootsuki sounds like just an amazing guy to just meet and talk to. Professor Ootsuki. I'm being honest here. He actually seems like a guy I would like to be friends with.
私が実は魔女だと言ったらお信じになります？
女は魔女であるというのが私のささやかな女性経験からの持論です。
Oh my god! Ange snorted at the old professor, who was undoubtedly an earnest scholar, and unlikely had any experiences with women at all.
そうそう。最後にもう一つだけ質問を。先生はメッセージボトルの実物をご覧になったことは？
ありますとも。
では、その筆跡についてもお詳しいですか？
もちろん。その道の専門家ではありませんが、メッセージボトルの筆跡に関してだけは日本で最も詳しいと自負していますとも。
At that point, Ange set a book on the table with a thud.
これは？
Melody, instrumental version.
初めて見るものです。
He prided himself on his thorough knowledge of all literature related to Rokkenjima, but he looked bewildered at this binding that he had never laid eyes on before. Ignoring him, Ange suddenly flipped through the pages, opened to one of them, and showed him. On that page was a handwritten paragraph beginning with, "To my dear witch apprentice." And at the end, there was a signature in capitals, katakana, that said Beatrice.
それは...
The instant he glanced at it, his face went pale. She knew the answer before asking, but Ange asked it aloud anyway.
このページに記されている文章の筆跡はメッセージボトルの筆跡と一致しますか？
いや、持ち帰って詳しく調べないことには。失礼だが、この本は一体どこに？
The man stretched out his hand, but Ange nimbly pulled it out of his reach, as though telling him not to touch it with his filthy hands.
ありがとう。
Aww.
その反応だけで結構です。今日はありがとうございました。これ、お約束の謝礼です。
As she stood up, clutching Maria's diary, Ange casually tossed a wad of 10,000 yen notes wrapped with a band of paper onto the table. As she turned her back to him and made to leave, the man raised his voice as though clinging to her. Poor Suki, but that is Ange's precious diary, so I can understand why Ange would not give it to him. But Ange never stopped walking.
お願いだ。その本は一体。謝礼はいらない。その本を見せてくれ。
私とあなたはウィッチハントの同志だけど、求める深さが違うみたい。あなたが楽しんでるのは猫箱の外側。そして私が知りたいのは猫箱の内側。そしてこの一冊はその猫箱を開く鍵ね。あなたには過ぎてるわ。じゃあね。グッバイジェントルメン。Have a nice day。
待ってくれ。スマデラさん。
Oh, he called her Sumadera. Oh yeah, because Ange. But wait, hold on. Does that make sense? Because isn't Ange still Ange Ushiyamiya because she was in Ava's guardianship, or after did after Ava died did Ange go back to the Sumadera surname? Wait, what? Huh, interesting. I thought she would keep the Ushiyamiya name, but she's now Sumadera? Huh. His voice didn't reach her. She had already joined up with Maska and gone into the car. Huh.
収穫はありましたか？
最後の最後にね。やっぱりそうだった。メッセージボトルを記したのはベアトリーチェ本人だった。
そいつはクールだ。魔女は実在するで決着で。
さあね。寝ていい？あのおしゃべり教授、きっと講義では自分の世界に入っちゃって寝ちゃう子続出だと思うわ。
どうぞどうぞ、お休みを。
しかしうまくいくもんね。あいつ私のことスマデラだと最後まで信じてたわ。
Oh, she was using a fake name. Well, if she did say that she was Ange Ushiyamiya, I bet Ootsuki would be all over her if he revealed her name. I mean, if she revealed her name to him, he would be all over her. So that makes sense now. That makes sense. The Sumadera family had cast out a net beforehand over any people Ange might try to contact. They had offered a reward for anyone who could detain Ushiyamiya Ange if she appeared. Ange had foreseen that and snatched it away. She had called herself Sumadera, and after skillfully tricking the man by saying her own subordinates would set up an ambush, she had taken him with her. So when the Sumadera pursuers reached the professor's house, there was no longer anyone there.
家人の話では、午前中にスマデラを名乗る若い男女が訪れ、
Over.
教授を連れ出したき、まだ帰宅しないそうです。裏を書かれた可能性が。
いけない子ね、エンジェちゃんは。そういう悪知恵、姉さんの血なのかしらね。 あんなに名乗るのは嫌だと言ってたスマデラの名を気安く名乗ってくれちゃうなんて。そのうち教授もお戻りになるだろうさ。そしたらソチャでも振る舞わないとね。
What did he do wrong?
了解しました。
私を手玉に取ったつもりかしら。やんちゃな子なんだから。
With a demonic look on her face, Kasumi violently stamped her heel. I'll teach you about my magic of origins. No, I taught you before, right? And you used... That's not Kasumi, is it? I thought that was Kasumi saying that, but I don't think that's Kasumi. I think that might be Maria. I think that might be Maria, and Ange's reading the notebook page, because it's talking about magic, and I taught you before. Oops, I thought that was Kasumi. No! I taught you before, right? And you used to be able to use it. Did you forget? You were also a Witcher Princess, Ange. With your name entered into the Mariage Sorcière, weren't you?
私も魔女に加えてもらったんだっけ。
Apathy. I closed Maria Onechan's diary and flopped down on a very high-class looking bed. Since I had fallen into a pretty deep sleep in the car, it was taking longer than usual for drowsiness to set in, and I had been spending a long time reading the diary as I waited for that. This was a super expensive hotel in the city. Expensive hotels that are often used by the rich and famous have an abnormally strong duty of confidentiality out of concern for their various circumstances. This made it a very convenient place for Ange, on the run from her pursuers. The idea that runaways spend their nights hiding in cheap hotels is a commoner's way of thinking. For Ange, who possessed all the wealth of the Ushiyamiya family, the life of a runaway was truly comfortable. Of course, as man, Hamaska was in a separate room despite being her guard. Ange was using the bedroom of the suite, while Hamaska was lying down on the living room sofa. Hamaska had said something about how the sofa here was more comfortable than his own bed recently. Poor guy. When I looked at the clock, I saw that it was almost 2 a.m. Still not getting sleepy. I sighed deeply. Even though there was no wind, I suddenly got the feeling that Maria Onechan's diary had fluttered open. Hey, Maria! Then, Onechan appeared. Did the character sheet change again? Oh! Okay, she just got added to the Ange side. Interesting. Huh. Very interesting. I read that last episode, so I'm not gonna read it again. Then, Onechan appeared. Her form was no longer the normal one I knew. She was wearing the dress that Beatrice had given her after acknowledging her status as a witch.
もう寝ないと明日が辛いよ。私も魔女なら魔法が使えるのよね。うん、使えるよ。教えてあげたでしょ。使い方、昔は使えたはずだよ。覚えてる。使いたくなった。寂しくなった？別に。毎日枕が違うくらいのことで辛くなんてならないわ。
魔法の最初の一歩は寂しいからとか退屈だからとか、そのくらいのささやかな理由でいいの。
眠くなるまでの暇つぶしだとしても。
エンジがもう一度魔法のことを思い出してくれて、マリアは嬉しい。
Farewell. It's been quite a long time since I last used magic. At one point, with Maria Onechan's introduction, I touched a corner of it and opened the door a tiny bit. So, I should still remember that sensation.
今のエンジはかなり魔法の力が衰えてる。基本に忠実じゃないと難しいよ。
四方を確認。静かな空間を確保。
天草さんは？
寝てるわ。
After opening the door to the living room a crack, I could see the blanket caterpillar on the sofa roll over in its sleep. The blanket caterpillar? Oh my god! Oh my god, wait, hold on. I wanna see something real quick through my own camera. The caterpillar. If you don't know what the caterpillar looks like, I'm gonna show you a quick example of the caterpillar. Alright, I'm only gonna do, I can do the full body caterpillar. I just need to move my headphones right here. Alright, the caterpillar. Alright, let's see if I can still do this. This is a pretty small couch. Like, yeah, this couch is extremely tiny, but okay. And this blanket is kind of tiny. But yes, this is a basic example of the caterpillar. You're wrapped up like you're a caterpillar, as the name proclaims. It is very comfortable. I must admit, it's very comfortable. But I can't really, be on my laptop when I'm like this. So I'm gonna get out of the caterpillar. Cocoon. Caterpillars don't go into cocoon. No, they do. After opening the door to the living room a crack, I could see the blanket caterpillar on the sofa roll over in its sleep.
今のエンジェの弱い魔力では半魔法力の影響を受けすぎる。人の姿だけじゃない。声も音も気配さえもエンジェの魔法の邪魔をする。それらを完璧に断って古代魔術師たちがアトリエを閉ざして孤独を守ったように。
覚えてるわ。人間の存在自体が魔法を妨げる。故に人に魔法を見せるということそのものがとても高位な魔女の証だったわね。
Obtain a quiet space for yourself alone. That should cover it for the preparation of the space to use magic.
次によりしろ。今のエンジェには自転車の補助輪、いえチェーンくらい大事。
これは当然無理よね。
Ange rubbed her own head. She was wearing hair accessories with pink beads attached. They felt a little childish for Ange's style, but she had never taken them off for a single day.
今のエンジェにはとても無理。あの日から一日も休むことなく修行していたなら、あるいは今頃は呼び出すことができたかもしれないね。
今から修行したらどのくらいかかるの？
魔女の修行は幼き日の1年が老いの10年と同じ価値があると言われてる。相当の覚悟がいるよ。
それこそ後ろ宮金蔵くらいに？ ピアノもバイオリンも魔法も幼い頃からの英才教育が大事なのね。
今のエンジェは初めて魔法を使えた時よりもその力が落ちている。無理をしないで基本に忠実に。
After regrettably rubbing the things on my head one more time, I let go. Then I started fishing through my knapsack, looking for anything that might make a good vessel.
これならよりしろにはぴったりじゃない？
懐かしい。それならば今のエンジェでも召喚できると思うよ。それには今主がいない。エンジェが新しい主になるのも可能なはず。
Among the things that looked like good vessels, I took the one I thought might possess the strongest magical power, and set it on the side table near the bed with a cloak. It was a shady-looking stake-shaped weapon embellished with an occult design. A stake of the 7 sticks of purgatory, used by witches to offer sacrifices. Wait, how did she get that? In the course of their search for evidence, the police had collected a large amount of junk. And after the investigation had finished, this had been faithfully returned to the Ushiyamiya family. I found something there that I had seen in the illustrations in Maria's diary, and took it home with me.
煉獄の七杭はもともと7本で一揃いだった。気の毒にね。今はもう彼女1本だけ。
One-Chan smiled, looking lonely. I pulled another book out of the knapsack. This was another old-fashioned, plainly occult-related book. But this, too, was a book to be written in. It was one of Maria One-Chan's elaborate notebooks. This one was not a diary. It was a grimoire, which she had written as a witch. The 7 sticks of purgatory were Beatrice's furniture, created by her and employed only for her sake. But since Beatrice was a witch of the Mariage Sorcière, they could be employed by Maria, who was a witch of the same alliance. For that reason, the method of summoning the 7 sticks of purgatory and how to handle them was written about in great detail in Maria One-Chan's grimoire. And as another person with her name in the same alliance, I was also permitted to employ them.
この杭は7姉妹の誰？
マリアの魔導書に彼女らの特徴がよく記されてるよ。七杭の姉妹は名前を間違えられることをとても嫌う。召喚する前によく彼女らの名前を思い出して。
A colossal number of pages telling of the 7 sticks of purgatory. They described the 7 sisters in great detail. Yes, quite a long time ago. I think I learned these pages almost by heart. The more I read it, the more I start to remember. By the illustrations and identifying characteristics written in the grimoire, I could tell that the stake in my hand was the stake of Mammon. Which sin was Mammon again? Wait, what was Mammon again? Greed! Okay, Mammon was greed. Okay, Mammon was greed. Sorry. I forgot which sin Mammon was. I'm sorry. In the past, I had been summoning them without any vessel, because I never had any stakes. So this was the first time I had gotten a good look at any of the 7 stakes, not just Mammon.
マモン、五条、7つの大罪の強欲を司る。
If I waited a few lines, I probably would have remembered which one Mammon was.
すごい子よね。
強欲は向上心、上昇志向、生きる強さなども司る。決して悪い意味だけではないんだよ。口は悪いけど、とても頑張り屋さんな子だし。
そうね。欲がないってことは、つまり生きてる理由がないってことだし。
For a while, I heightened my concentration and digested the information that was written about Mammon. The more the summoner knows about the target that's being summoned, the better. Knowledge brings about magical power. I began to fill my head with knowledge about Mammon and build the necessary amount of magic power for the summoning.
魔導書ってちょっとだけ面白いわね。下手くそな小説を読むよりよっぽど面白いかもしれない。なんだか懐かしい気持ちになるわ。
Suggest your grimoires down in the comments below. I'm joking. Though if you do want to suggest your personal favorite grimoires, go ahead, I don't really mind.
魔導書はただ文字を読み取るだけじゃなく、行間から世界を膨らませたり、挿絵から世界を生み出したりと、様々な想像を要求されるの。生み出す力。これを持つエンジェになら、どんな本よりも魔導書は面白いはずだよ。エンジェになら理解できるってマリアはずっと知ってたもの。
マモンの知識、これで十分だと思うわ。うん、だいたい蘇った。やってみる。
しっかりね。いざという時に備えて私の護符を。今の君は同盟の条約に守られてない。マモンは少し喧嘩っ早いところがある子。あるいはまだ恨んでるかも。注意して。
What does that mean?
うん。身につけることにする。
The 7-6 of Purgatory, as furniture for sacrificial rituals, are treated as beings inferior even to weapons. But that is only when it comes to demons. To humans, even furniture is something to be feared. I fished through the knapsack again, and took out a bracelet charm with a scorpion medal that I had gotten from Maria Onechan long ago, and put it on my arm. I had no need for something like this in the past, but I need insurance.
大丈夫。それにはまだ十分な魔法防御が備わってる。それを身につけている限り絶対に大丈夫。
Maria Onechan's magical power, in particular the power she could put into charms, was enough to earn even Beatrice's admiration. While it would only have looked like something cheap to a human who couldn't understand magic, its magical worth was incalculable.
さあさあ、おいでなさい。
Surrounded.
罪を許しなさい。煉獄の七杭が一つ。強欲のマモン。
I concentrated my mind. I made the anti-magic toxin that filled my body zero. Imagine a vast, unattained space. Dobbs and common sense all resist magic. Make the resistance zero, and erase the burden towards magical power. Inside my head was the image of a vast space. It was a nighttime world where I floated in the air, and the neon stars on the ground sparkled. A world where the stars that should have covered the heavens were drowned out by the light from below, and the stars covered the ground instead. In the world of a vast night sky, with no obstructions, I imagined the wind blowing through freely. Just then, in that room where no wind could blow, the free nighttime wind whirled around. That long-forgotten sensation raced through my entire body. The unique feeling of exhaustion felt when using magic. From Mammon's stake, held out in my hand, I gradually began to feel a pale light. The cyclone gyred around the stake. The hefty stake floated a bit into the air.
見事だよ。ブランクは君から才能を奪わなかったね。
さあさあ、おいでなさい。罪を許しなさい。煉獄の七杭が一つ、強欲のマモン。その姿を私に見せなさい。
I slowly raised my hand as I brought it higher than my head, almost as though it was being sucked upwards by it. The stake of Mammon likewise floated high up into the air and gradually began to shake. Its shaking grew faster and faster, and then it burst. Oh? With a speed faster than the eye could follow, it flew around, finally rebounding off the walls of the room. The terrible sound of it jumping from place to place bore down upon me, trying to make me flinch. But I mustn't lose my mental concentration. Then, the stake, which had been flying around at an incredible speed, finally restrained itself and faced me. It was in the air, just a few centimeters away from my forehead, held back by the defensive barrier created by the scorpion charm. It was trying to break the defensive barrier, eating into it with incredible power, but Maria One-chan's barrier wouldn't be broken so easily.
無理か、食い破れない。
The stake muttered hatefully. You could probably say that I had been saved thanks to the scorpion charm. Without that, my way of killing time until I got sleepy would have become a way to kill time for all eternity. When Mammon's stake realized that it was unable to gouge me, it gave up gracefully, and changed its form of that of a stake into that of from that of a stake into that of a person. And let's see where Mammon is on the character sheet. Oh. All of them are here. They're all here. Wow. But we're only seeing Mammon. That's what I'm getting from this. Mammon was the only one left. Interesting. Interesting. Huh. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Her character sheet changed. Yeah, her character sheet changed. I almost didn't realize that. I almost didn't notice that. Oh, wow. Mammon is the piece of furniture who was the first to become Ange's friend. She remained alongside her throughout her years of training, supporting her master constantly and greatly so that she could become a full-fledged witch. A special person among the seven sisters. Mammon. Interesting. In her usual shameless outfit, which I would never be seen walking outside in. Although you could say it suited her in a demonic sort of way.
Ange 様なの?
599 million ruins. I like the motive in this. song. I like the motive.
ずいぶんとみすぼらしい魔力だけど、本当にエンジェ様？
お久しぶりね、マモン。元気にしてた？
てっきりもうお役御免の家具は何度で朽ち果てるだけだと思ってました。それでこれはどういう余興で？まさか私の所有者がエンジ様とでもおっしゃるつもりで？
うん。エンジが君の主人だよ。
マリア卿、これはお見苦しいところを。先ほどの結界はマリア卿の？
うん。今のエンジじゃひょっとしたら君にやられてしまうかもしれないって思ったからお符を貸したの。
マリア卿に私の主人がエンジ様だと言われたんじゃ断りようもありません。エンジ様、何なりとご命令を。私が必要とされるということは新しい儀式を。
Oh.
新しい生贄を。もっとも私を使いこなし自らの手を汚す程度の覚悟が終わりならの話ですか。
Okay, there's the catch.
その役割は私はもう求めてないわ。昔同様にただ話し相手になってくれるだけで十分よ。ええ、それがお望みでしたら、家具は使われてこそ家具。お呼び出しいただいただけで光栄ですとも。エンジェ様。
Mammon had a slightly complicated smile on her face. She had accepted Ange as her new master because Maria had told her to. But it looked like she hadn't gotten over her discontent at working for Ange with her frail magical power. Or perhaps she had some other reason for hating Ange. But for now, it seemed that she couldn't disobey Ange despite her discontent.
それで私は何をすれば？
わからない。適当に賑やかにしてくれればいいわ。昔みたいに。
お言葉ですが、多分エンジ様がおっしゃる賑やかさとは私たち姉妹の騒ぎのことだと思います。私一人では難しいかと。お忘れで？
そうだね。七姉妹はみんなが揃うと本当に賑やかだったよね。
No, I'm choking. Wow. Okay, I think I'm good now. Sometimes I fail at drinking water. I fail at drinking water sometimes.
でも今のエンジの魔力じゃマモンを呼び出すのが精一杯だと思う。他の6人の杭も紛失してる。
恐れながらマリア卿、私の杭を経由し七姉妹に語りかけ呼び出すことは不可能ではないかと。私を刺激されるのでしたら、その程度の力はエンジェ様にはお持ちいただきたいところですが。
Mammon giggled. Apparently, she wanted me to summon the other sisters without a vessel. I see. Unable to be satisfied with being summoned alone, she asked for the other sisters to be summoned as well. I get it. Greed. Yes, she was like this back then, wasn't she? List for furniture when it is used. Being used, no matter how roughly, is furniture's joy. Not only that, but no matter how much care you might treat them with, if they are not given a job, that would give them the greatest anguish. Mammon spoke as though to provoke me. But what she wanted was for me to summon the other sisters somehow, and rescue them from the world of nothingness. Why not just be honest and ask me to, then? Demons really are difficult.
エンジ、無理しないで。マモンを呼び出せただけでリハビリには十分だよ。
あら、一人だけでリハビリになっちゃうの？どうせ暇つぶしよ。いいわ、マモン。乗りかかった船だわ。呼べるところまで呼んであげる。
本当に？さすがエンジ様！さあさあ、早く早く！
Even though she said it, it seemed that Mammon hadn't actually expected to be able to ask this of Ange. She hopped around, badgering Ange to summon the other sisters. The consumption of physical and magical power used to calm Mammon alone was considerable. It will probably be pretty tough to do 6 more. I'm in awe of the magical power of those who reach the level of being called witches, because those people can summon these sisters with no more than a snap of their fingers.
マモン、エンジェに無理をさせないで。エンジェはまだ本調子じゃないから。
エンジ様はみんなを召喚してくれるって言いました？
Actually, I'd only said that I'd call as many as I could. Guess this is greed.
無理しないで、エンジェ。もう今日は休んだ方がいい。君は十分疲れてるよ。
いいわよ。どうせ暇つぶし。ばったり寝込めるくらいに疲れさせてもらうわ。
This time, there's no vessel. I'll have to strengthen the image solely from the knowledge in the grimoire, and manifest them just with that. I held my hands out into the air, replaying in my head the sensation from when I had summoned Mammon. Come on, I know all of the sisters personally. Remember, in the past, the times I talked with them. F-style. Once again, the power of magic began to fill me up. Ooh. It radiated as a faint, and yet distinct pale blue light from both of my hands.
エンジ様、しっかりしっかり頑張ってねえマリア卿、エンジ様は必ずみんなを呼び出してくださいますよね。また7姉妹は再会できますよね。ね。
きっとね。でもそれが今夜という保証はないよ。
エンジ様ならできますって。エンジ様、お願い。末っ子のアスモから。
アスモデウス7女。分かった。末っ子から順番に呼ぶわ。
A strand of hot sweat dripped down from my forehead. This really does put one hell of a strain on you. The pale light in the space began to form into the vague outline of a girl.
さあさあ、おいでなさい。煉獄の七悔が一つ、色欲のアスモデウス。
There was no vessel. However, with the strong core conviction that she definitely did exist there, I began to crystallize her form. Her outline became distinct, and the form of the youngest of the 7 sisters, Asmodeus, was finally created.
色欲のアスモデウス、ここに。ここはどこ？私は生きてるの？アスモ！よかった。マモン姉さん、ここは一体。私を呼び出したのは誰なの？
No, I didn't.
エンジェ様、ありがとう。次はベルゼをお願いします。
ベルゼブブ6条、暴食のベルゼブブ。さあさあ、おいでなさい。
She's getting tired. If I just keep on like this, I wonder how many I can summon. If I lose my concentration, that'll probably be it. The pale light made an outline and formed into Beelzebub.
暴食のベルゼブブ、ここに。
Mammon and Asmodeus jumped on Beelzebub, celebrating their reunion. Summoning 3 people at once. My head was throbbing. Without resting, I summoned the next one.
さあさあ、おいでなさい。煉獄の7杭の一つ、怠惰のペルフェゴール。
怠惰のベルフェゴール、ここに。
Welcome back, Belphegor.
なんと、私がまだ必要とされるとは。ベルフェネー、お腹すいた。じゃなくて、また会えて嬉しい。また7姉妹みんなが再会できるなんて。エンジ様、本当にありがとうございます。この調子で次はサタンネーを、ベビアネーもルシネーも。
ええ、分かってるわ。だからお願い、あまりうるさくしないで。4人同時は結構きつい。
エンジ、もうそれ以上無理をしないで。これだけ久しぶりなのによく4人も召喚できたよ。
よせ、マモン。今のエンジェ様には我らの召喚は負担を強いている。エンジェ様、どうかご無理をなされませんよ。私は嫌。エンジェ様は約束したの。また私たちみんなと遊んでくれるって。
No, I did.
みんなとまた会えるって。すぐに会えるって約束した。
そうね、約束したわ。
Oh.
すぐにがいつのこととは約束しなかったけど、確かに私は約束したわ。
だから守って。じゃないと私は今日までそれを忘れていたエンジェ様を許さない。
さあさあ、おいでなさい。煉獄の7杭の一つ、憤怒のサタン。
My mind was starting to get hazy, but I'll call. I may have forgotten those days. I may not have thought of them as anything but sadness and loneliness. But certainly, the short time I spent with these girls was, without a doubt, fun. Welcome back, Satan!
ここに。
何やってるのよ、あんたたち。私たちが井戸端会議をするだけでどれだけエンジェ様に負担をかけてるか分かってんの？
Satan, who had apparently figured out the situation immediately after being summoned, yelled out in a loud voice, telling her sisters off. That loud voice made my consciousness fade again.
私たちはベアトリーテ様より休むことを許された役目を終えた家具なのよ。再びお役に立てる機会を賜るどころか、新しい主人の負担になるなんて、そんなの家具の直れ。早く姿を消しなさい。サタン姉の言う通りだ。姿を消す。
お前たちも姿を消せ。それがこの瞬間一番エンジェ様のお役に立てる。
私は嫌よ。みんなを呼び出してもらえるまでは嫌。私も嫌。お腹すいた。じゃなくてやっと再会したばかりなのにもう帰るなんて嫌。
わがまま言ってんじゃないわよ。ほらとっとと姿を消す。ほらアスもさっさと消えなさい。
わあ、サタン姉さんがいじめた。いつも末っ子からなんてずるい。
実に賑やかね。退屈しない。
もう十分だよ。今のエンジには限界を超えてる。
そうね。
This situation, where I had summoned 5 of them, and they were messing around as they pleased, was placing far too heavy a load on me currently, with my meager magic power. This is it. As my consciousness grew distant, I collapsed onto the bed. And she went to sleep. Have Vets always felt this soft? It seemed that the sisters were still squabbling together as much as they liked. For a way to kill time until drowsiness comes to get me, this will do. Feeling something warm and nostalgic in the sisters' liveliness, I sank into a world of deep sleep. At the entrance to my dream world, I felt Maria One-chan and Sakutaro waiting to receive me. Huh. Wingless.
お疲れ様。そして頑張ったね。
ルリュウ。おかえり、エンジェ。
Welcome back. Huh. Then I should respond like this. Glad to be home. Interesting. Umineko no Nakukora ni. Rondo the Witcher Reasoning. Invitation to Fantasy. Huh. Huh. Alright. Invitation to Fantasy. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, this chapter was interesting in general, especially with the beginning half with Professor Ootsuki and all of what he was saying to Ange, especially about the bottled letters. Now, I think I said most of what I was saying about them earlier, but I'm gonna give a recap of my thoughts right now. So, according to what we figured out of the message bottles, it kind of seems like you could interpret the bottles as the previous 2 games and their results. With, the third game being a story that was altered due to Ava finding the, gold. Honestly, the whole concept of the bottles actually telling the story and the episodes kind of being like, portrayed through these bottles in this universe is actually very interesting. And, I definitely want to learn more about the, the message bottles and what's actually written in them, because I actually want to know, what do the bottles entail? Like, does it entail the events of what happened in the previous games? Or does it entail other sorts of stories, or, the story of what was supposed to happen in episode 3? Like, there's a lot of interesting ideas that could be explained with the bottles. So, I'm really hoping that later on in this game, or maybe in the future games, we actually get to read what's in those bottles, because I'm really intrigued to see what's in those bottles. And the sort of scenarios that could be, the sort of scenarios that were written down in them. Also, we can bring out a theory of each game of Umineko are different stories told by the true culprit that they sent out into the world in order for people to, look into the case, continue the case to live on through the world of the occult, so that maybe one day people could figure out what happened on Rokkenjima that day. That is very interesting. Like, this chapter basically brought up a lot of interesting concepts that probably the next 4 games will explore, and I can't wait to see that. I cannot wait to see that. And the whole scene with Ange summoning the 7 Sticks, that got me to be a little bit intrigued about her backstory with the 7 Sticks of Purgatory. Because it's very interesting. It's very interesting about, how the 7 Sticks seem to both recognize her, but be fine with being summoned by her, even though it's kind of, mentioned by Maria that the Stakes might hold a grudge against her, either for not being summoned for a long time, summoned with a weak magical power, or another reason. And I cannot wait to see if there's another reason as to why the Stakes might not be too happy with, being brought back by Ange. So yeah, I'm really just looking forward to how, things get explained throughout the game. Like, that's what I'm really looking forward to, like how things, get more explained in the game and how much exploration I can do into the concepts of what could be going on. Like, that's the most fun I've been having with Umineko, just making theories and diving into concepts of what could be going on. I think that's probably one of the more fun parts of this game series for me right now, is actually making theories.
OK, OK。